Hey there, deep divers. Ready to go deep. Today, we're diving into the world of clean energy technology manufacturing and trade.
Sounds exciting.
We've got a fantastic resource for this.
Yeah.
The International Energy Agency's Energy Technology Perspectives 2024 report. This thing is jam-packed with insights.
I know, it's so comprehensive.
We're talking solar panels, wind turbines, batteries for electric vehicles, even the ships that transport them. It's all covered in this report.
It really puts a comprehensive picture of the whole landscape.
It does. Okay, so one of the things that really jumped out at me was China's dominance in clean energy technology manufacturing. The report says they're responsible for a whopping 70% of global production across 6 key technologies.
Yeah, that's a major takeaway from the report for sure. It presents both opportunities and challenges.
What does that kind of dominance mean for the rest of the world?
Well, on the one hand, their huge production capacity and cost competitiveness are driving down the price of these technologies globally, which makes them more accessible, which is great. But on the other hand, that reliance on a single country creates some vulnerabilities.
It does.
What happens if there are disruptions to trade? Political tensions escalate. These are all things we have to consider.
Definitely makes you think about the bigger picture. The report even mentions that China's building a solar panel factory so big it could meet the entire EU's current demand.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling the scale of some of these operations.
It's huge. But their success isn't just about having cheap labor, right?
No, absolutely not. It's about strategic planning. They've invested heavily in building a vertically integrated supply chain from raw materials all the way to the finished products. And they also have a massive domestic market, which creates economies of scale.
Right.
And let's not forget, they have government policies that actively support this whole sector.
So they really made this a priority.
Absolutely.
The report mentioned an IEA survey about what drives investment decisions in this sector. What were some of the findings?
Well, cost is obviously a factor. Chinese production costs can be sometimes up to 45% lower than the US and EU. But the survey found that it's not the only thing companies consider. Government policies, access to markets, skilled labor, and reliable infrastructure are all important factors as well.
So it's a more nuanced picture than just China's the cheapest.
Exactly. It's more complex than that. While cost is important, it's not the whole story.
Okay, so how does all of this play out in terms of global trade? We know China's producing a lot. Are they exporting it too?
Oh, absolutely. The report shows that global clean technology trade is booming. In 2023 alone, it reached USD 200 billion, and China was the leading exporter. This trend is only going to accelerate. The IEA projects that by 2035, China's clean technology exports could actually offset their entire fossil fuel import bill.
So they're becoming a clean energy powerhouse.
Absolutely. It's a major shift in the global energy landscape.
It really is. It's fascinating to see how clean technology is becoming this major force in international trade. But the report also mentions some potential roadblocks. What were some of the things they highlighted?
One thing that stands out is tariffs. While tariffs on clean energy technologies are relatively low, averaging under 10%, they're still about twice as high as those on fossil fuels.
Really?
Yeah, and this creates an uneven playing field. It can actually hinder the wider adoption of clean energy technologies, particularly in developing countries.
It seems counterintuitive that we would make it harder to trade in the technologies that are supposed to help us transition away from fossil fuels.
It does, doesn't it?
So what can be done about that?
Well, the IEA advocates for lower tariffs and greater international cooperation to kind of speed up this whole clean energy transition.
Makes sense.
They argue that removing these trade barriers would benefit not just individual countries, but would also create a more stable and sustainable global energy system for everyone.
It's a win-win situation, potentially. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit and zoom in on some specific regions. The U.S., for example, is making big moves with the Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA. It includes these tax credits designed to boost domestic manufacturing of things like solar panels, battery cells, and electric vehicles.
It's a big deal.
How is that impacting the clean energy landscape?
It's definitely shaking things up. These tax credits are making U.S.-made products more competitive with Chinese imports. We're already seeing companies like Tesla, VinFast, Toyota, Stellantis announcing plans to build new EV factories in the U.S.
So it's a potential game changer for the U.S. clean energy manufacturing sector.
It has the potential to be, absolutely.
So the U.S. is really stepping up its game. What about the European Union? They've been leaders in climate action for a while now. How are they faring in this new clean energy manufacturing landscape?
The EU is interesting. They're definitely ahead in some areas, like heat pump technology, but they're facing stiff competition from China, particularly in the EV market.
What are some of the challenges they're facing?
Well, despite their push for clean transportation, the EU is currently a net importer of EVs from China.
Oh, wow.
This has put a lot of pressure on European car makers who are struggling to keep up with the pace of innovation and cost competitiveness coming out of China. There's even talk of imposing import duties on those Chinese EVs to try to protect the European market.
It sounds like a tough balancing act for them.
It is trying to promote clean energy while also supporting their domestic industries.
What about India? They've been making some noise with their Make in India initiative. How does that fit into this global picture?
India is really aiming to become a global manufacturing hub, and clean energy technologies are a big part of that. They've implemented these production-linked incentive schemes, or PLIs.
PLIs. Okay, so tell me more about these.
These offer financial incentives to companies that manufacture certain products domestically.
Oh, interesting.
It's a way to attract investment and boost local production.
PLIs sound interesting. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure I understand how they work.
Sure. Basically, they are financial rewards that are tied directly to production output. So let's say a company is manufacturing solar panels in India. They could receive a certain amount of money for each panel they produce.
Oh, okay.
And this makes domestic manufacturing more attractive and helps companies scale up production more quickly.
I see. So it's kind of a way to jumpstart the industry.
Exactly. And the report actually highlights India's goal of reaching 450 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030. These PLIs are a key part of their strategy to achieve that goal while also creating jobs and boosting economic growth.
Makes sense. Seems like a really smart strategy.
It is. And speaking of ambitious goals, the report also talks about this huge opportunity for emerging markets.
Yeah.
Countries in Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia to become big players in the clean energy economy.
That's exciting.
It is. So what are some of the factors that could actually enable that growth?
Yeah, what's going to help them succeed?
Well, a lot of these regions have abundant renewable energy resources. Think solar, wind, hydropower. They also have growing populations and increasing energy demand,
Right.
which creates a really strong incentive to invest in clean energy.
It makes a lot of sense. If you're building your energy infrastructure from the ground up, why not go with the clean options from the start?
That's right. What's interesting is that the report suggests that these regions could actually leapfrog traditional fossil fuel-based development. They can move directly toward a cleaner, more sustainable path.
Leapfrogging, I like that. It's like skipping a step and going straight to the good stuff.
Exactly. It's about embracing those cutting-edge technologies and building a modern energy infrastructure from scratch.
What are some specific examples of emerging markets that are making strides in this area? Any countries that really stand out?
Oh, absolutely. Mauritania is a good example. They're traditionally known for iron ore export, but they're now looking to move up the value chain by producing steel domestically.
Oh, interesting.
And they're going to be powering this with renewable energy.
Wow. So it's clean energy driving industrial development.
Yes, it's a great example of how clean energy can create new economic opportunities.
That's a fantastic example. Any others?
Yeah. Namibia is another one. They have these vast solar and wind resources and are positioning themselves to become a hub for low-emission hydrogen-based products.
Like what?
Things like green ammonia and synthetic fuels. These products could be exported to meet the growing global demand for those cleaner energy carriers.
So they're not just using clean energy for themselves, they're actually exporting it in a different form.
Exactly. It's a really smart strategy.
It sounds like emerging markets are really recognizing the power of clean energy to drive economic growth and make them more competitive on a global scale.
They are, and the report's high potential case scenario shows that if they can effectively leverage their advantages and get the support they need from the international community, the economic and social benefits could be huge.
It's a win-win for everyone, really.
It is. It's about creating a more equitable and sustainable future for everyone.
This all sounds incredibly promising. But I have to imagine that there are also some challenges, maybe even some risks, associated with this rapid shift towards clean energy manufacturing and trade.
Of course, you're absolutely right. And the report does a great job of highlighting these risks, urging policymakers to think strategically. It outlines 3 key risk categories that need careful consideration.
Okay, let's hear them. What's the first risk category?
The first one is all about making sure we have secure and resilient supply chains.
Supply chains, okay.
We've already talked about how China currently dominates clean energy technology manufacturing. And this concentration of production in one country creates vulnerabilities. Any disruption to trade, whether it's geopolitical tensions or even something like a natural disaster, could have ripple effects throughout the whole global clean energy supply chain.
So it's about not putting all our eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Diversifying those supply sources is crucial to building a more resilient and stable clean energy system. The report suggests that supporting the development of manufacturing capabilities in different regions, especially those emerging markets we talked about, is essential to mitigating this risk.
Makes sense. Spreading the risk around would create a more robust system. What's the second risk category?
The second one is maintaining affordability. The cost of clean energy technologies has come down dramatically in recent years, that's true,
Right.
but it's crucial to ensure that these technologies stay affordable as we scale up production and deployment.
I see what you mean. We don't want clean energy to become a luxury that only the wealthy can afford.
Exactly. We risk exacerbating inequalities if we don't pay attention to this.
So how do we prevent that from happening? How do we keep costs down while also ensuring high quality and performance? It's a delicate balance.
The report emphasizes fostering innovation and competition. Continued investment in research and development is essential to drive down costs and improve efficiency.
Right. Innovation is key.
Absolutely, and creating a level playing field for companies operating in different regions can help foster healthy competition and prevent monopolies.
Innovation and competition, two powerful forces for progress. Okay, what's the third risk category? What else do we need to be thinking about?
The third one, and I think perhaps the most crucial one, is making sure the clean energy transition leads to equitable outcomes.
What do you mean by that?
As we move away from fossil fuels, we have to be mindful of the potential impacts on workers and communities that have relied on those industries for their livelihoods. If we don't manage this transition carefully, it could lead to job losses, economic hardship, and social unrest.
That's a really important point. It's about making sure that no one gets left behind in this transition.
Absolutely. And the report stresses the importance of investing in workforce development and reskilling initiatives. We need to provide workers with the training and skills they need to transition to new jobs in the clean energy sector.
So it's about empowering people to thrive in this new economy.
Exactly. It's about equipping them with the tools they need to succeed. And that includes not just technical skills, but also broader skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and adaptability.
Those are the skills that are really valuable in any job market, especially one that's changing as quickly as the energy sector.
They are. The report also talks about data-driven policymaking as a way to address these risks and accelerate the clean energy transition.
Data-driven policymaking. What exactly does that mean? Give me the rundown.
It means making decisions on solid evidence and tracking progress carefully.
Okay, so it's about being smart and strategic.
It is. It involves collecting reliable data on clean energy production, consumption, trade, and other relevant metrics.
Right.
And then using that data to inform policy decisions, monitor how effective programs are, and identify areas where adjustments are needed.
So no more shooting in the dark. We need to measure what we're doing and make sure it's actually having the intended impact.
Precisely. The report really emphasizes that need for robust data collection and monitoring to ensure that policies are effective, efficient, and equitable.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the big picture, global trends, regional dynamics, policy recommendations, but can we maybe zoom in on a specific example to bring all this to life?
Sure, let's look at the global trade of solar PV modules. Those are a key component of solar energy systems.
Yeah.
In 2023, trade in these modules reached USD 200 billion, and the IEA projects that this could more than triple in value by 2035, reaching around USD 575 billion under current policies.
That's a huge amount of growth.
It is. But we talked earlier about how tariffs on solar PV modules are still higher than those on fossil fuels.
Right, that doesn't seem to make much sense.
It doesn't, and that's the key takeaway here. Despite this boom in clean energy technology trade, there are still barriers out there that are hindering progress.
So what's the logic behind these tariffs? If clean energy is so important, why make it harder to trade these technologies?
Well, some countries say that tariffs are necessary to protect their domestic industries and jobs.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Others might use tariffs as a bargaining chip in trade deals or to exert some kind of political pressure.
I see.
It's complicated. There are lots of different factors at play.
It's not just economics then. It's politics and national interests as well.
Absolutely. It's all intertwined.
This example of solar PV modules really highlights that the clean energy transition isn't just a technological challenge. It's political and economic too.
It is.
We need to be smart about how we navigate those complex dynamics.
We do. We have to find solutions that work for everyone.
And recognize that this is a global effort. We need collaboration, innovation, and a shared commitment to build a better world if we're going to pull this off.
Couldn't agree more.
This has been a great discussion. We've covered a lot, from manufacturing trends to trade dynamics to policy recommendations. But before we wrap up, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. International shipping.
Yes. The often overlooked but essential piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. We've been talking about all these amazing technologies, solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, but how do they actually get from where they're made to where they're needed?
It's a critical question.
And what about the environmental impact of all that transportation?
Yeah.
Are we just shifting the emissions from one place to another?
It's a great point. We often overlook shipping when we talk about clean energy.
You do.
But it's a big piece of the puzzle. All of these clean technologies we've been discussing, solar panels, wind turbines, EV batteries, a lot of times they have to travel really long distances across oceans even to get to where they need to be.
Right.
And that reliance on international shipping, well, it creates both opportunities and challenges.
Okay, so let's break it down. What are some of the challenges that shipping presents in the context of, trying to transition to clean energy?
The biggest one is that shipping itself is a major source of greenhouse gas emissions.
It is.
Yeah. Right now, most cargo ships run on heavy fuel oil, which is a very polluting fossil fuel.
Oh.
So ironically, transporting these clean technologies can actually have a negative impact on the environment.
So we're trying to clean up the energy system, but relying on a dirty transportation system to get us there. It's a bit of a paradox. So how do we fix that? How do we make shipping more sustainable?
Well, the IEA report outlines a few strategies for decarbonizing the shipping industry.
Okay, let's hear them.
One approach is to just improve the energy efficiency of the ships we already have. Things like optimizing hull designs to reduce drag, using more efficient engines and propulsion systems.
Makes sense.
Even using wind power with technologies like rotor sails. Have you ever seen those?
I have, yeah. They're those big spinning cylinders that look kind of like sails, right?
Exactly.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, they capture wind energy.
So it's about making the ships themselves more fuel efficient, kind of like what we've been doing with cars for years.
Exactly. Even small efficiency improvements can have a big impact when you think about all the ships out there.
Right.
But efficiency is just the first step. We also need to transition to cleaner fuels.
So what are our options? What are the leading contenders for cleaner fuels in shipping?
There are a few. Biofuels are one option. They're made from plant or animal matter and can be mixed with traditional fossil fuels.
Okay, so that's kind of a bridge solution.
Right. It helps reduce emissions. But then you have synthetic fuels, which are made from renewable energy sources like solar and wind power.
So those are potentially carbon neutral.
Exactly. And then there's hydrogen and ammonia.
Ammonia, like the stuff in cleaning products. How can that be a fuel?
It might sound strange, but ammonia is actually a very versatile chemical. And when it's made using renewable energy sources, it's a carbon-free fuel. Plus, it's pretty easy to store and transport, which makes it really appealing for long-distance shipping.
So there are actually a lot of different options on the table for cleaning up shipping, but I'm guessing switching to any of these new fuels would require a lot of changes.
Oh, for sure. We're not just talking about changing the fuel. We're talking about needing new bunkering facilities to supply those fuels. New storage systems, handling systems. We might even need to design ships that are specifically built to run on these cleaner fuels.
So it's not a simple fix.
It's a big undertaking, but the IEA report makes a pretty compelling argument that it's both necessary and doable.
Okay, so big challenges, but not impossible. What are some of the factors that are driving this transition towards cleaner shipping? If it's so hard, why are people even bothering?
Well, there's increasing pressure from regulators. The International Maritime Organization, or IMO, has set some pretty ambitious targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the industry.
So they're really pushing for change.
They are, and this is giving shipping companies a clear incentive to invest in cleaner technologies.
Makes sense. Regulations are really setting the stage here.
They are. But there's also growing consumer demand for sustainability.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. People are becoming more aware of climate change, and they want products that are made and transported in an environmentally responsible way.
And that's putting pressure on companies to clean up their acts.
Exactly. It's not just about regulations anymore. It's also about market forces driving change.
And then there's the economic opportunity.
Right. The IEA report highlights that cleaning up shipping could be a huge economic win.
Oh, interesting.
It could create jobs, stimulate innovation, and boost economic growth.
So it's good for the environment and good for the economy.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
I'm starting to see how shipping fits into this bigger story of the clean energy transition. It's not just about the technologies themselves, it's about thinking about the whole system.
You got it. That's one of the key messages from the report. We need to think about the entire life cycle of clean energy technologies, from raw materials to manufacturing, transportation, even end-of-life management. That's how we create a truly sustainable energy future.
This has been a fantastic deep dive into the world of clean energy manufacturing and trade. We've talked about China's dominance, the challenges and opportunities for emerging markets, the often overlooked role of shipping.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
It's been great.
It has. And it's clear that the clean energy transition is a complex and dynamic process. There's a lot going on and a lot to consider.
But it's also really hopeful. We're seeing incredible innovation, growing collaboration, and a shared commitment to creating a cleaner, more sustainable world. The IEA's report is a great resource for anyone who wants to understand this transition better. It lays out the challenges, the opportunities, the key decisions that are ahead of us. I highly encourage everyone listening to check it out and keep exploring these issues. The future of energy is in our hands, and we have the power to shape it.